Woman in your 40s, and you have less than $50,000 saved for retirement. You're not behind schedule. You're actually right on track for a retirement that won't work. The average 45-year-old woman has $42,000 in retirement savings. She'll need close to $1.2 million to retire comfortably. And here's what nobody's telling you. Your 40s are the only decade left where the math still works in your favor. Not because you're running out of time, but because of something way more interesting. Meet Rachel. 41, regional sales manager for a software company in Charlotte. Makes $78,000 a year. On paper, she's doing fine. Better than fine, actually. She got promoted 3 years ago. Bought a decent car. Has a 401k she contributes to when she can. Which lately hasn't been often. Here's what her actual money looks like. $78,000 salary. After federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, Medicare, she's taking home about $4,600 a month. Let's see where it goes. Mortgage, $1,650. Not terrible for a decent neighborhood with good schools. Student loans, $340. Still paying off that master's degree from 2009. Car payment, $420. That promotion came with client meetings. Needed something reliable. Insurance, health, car, home, $580 combined. Utilities, phone, internet, $240. Groceries, $520. For her and her 14-year-old daughter. Credit card minimum, $185. Mostly from when she went 6 months between jobs 2 years ago. Subscriptions, $95. Spotify family plan, Adobe for work, streaming services, Costco membership. We're at $4,030. She has $570 left. But we're not done. Gas, $180. Daughter's activities and school expenses, $150. The social tax, birthday gifts, team lunches, that coworker's wedding shower, $120. The stuff that just happens. Copays. The thing that broke. The thing you forgot about, $120. She's got exactly $200 left over on a good month. Some months it's zero. Some months it's negative and she's moving money from savings to checking at midnight. This is a woman making nearly $80,000 a year. And if you're nodding right now because this is your exact life with different numbers, stay with me. Because what I'm about to show you isn't about making more money. Here's what's actually happening. And it's not what you think. Rachel's problem isn't that she's bad with money. It's that she's following every piece of financial advice she's ever been given, and that advice was designed to keep her exactly where she is. She's paying down debt before investing. Makes sense, right? Except her student loans are at 4.2%. The market averages 8% returns. Every dollar she puts toward that loan instead of her 401k is costing her future money. She's keeping a comfortable emergency fund. $8,000 in a savings account earning 0.5% interest. Meanwhile, inflation is running at 3%. That money is actively losing value while she feels responsible for having it. She's waiting to max out her 401k until her finances are more stable. But here's what she doesn't realize. By the time your finances feel stable in your 40s, you've already lost the most valuable thing you had. Time. Not just any time. Compound interest time. Let me show you what I mean. If Rachel had invested $500 a month starting at 30, by 65, she'd have $932,000. If she starts at 40, investing that same $500 a month, she'll have $489,000. If she waits until 50, $248,000. Same monthly amount. Different outcomes. A $684,000 difference between starting at 30 versus 50. But here's the thing nobody tells you about being a woman in your 40s. You didn't get to start at 30. At 30, Rachel was making $52,000 and paying off $40,000 in student loans. At 32, she took a year off for maternity leave, unpaid, because that's how it works in America. At 35, she was at a new company starting over at a lower salary after being laid off. At 38, She finally broke $70,000 and immediately needed a new car because the old one died. This is the motherhood penalty. The pay gap. The career interruption tax that only women pay. And now the financial advice aimed at women says, start investing. It's never too late. Which is technically true. But it leaves out the most important part. Your 40s are the last decade where compound interest has enough runway to do the heavy lifting for you. After 50, you're not building wealth anymore. You're catching up. And catching up requires sacrifice that building never did. Here's the psychology that makes this worse. Women in their 40s have been trained their entire lives to be good girls about money. Not greedy. Not aggressive. Not selfish. You've been taught to pay off debt first. Build up savings. Be responsible. Wait until you know more. Make sure everyone else is taken care of first. And every single one of those things sounds responsible. Sounds smart. Sounds like what a good woman should do. But here's what it actually is. A trap designed to keep you earning for someone else and never building for yourself. That $8 salad you grab for lunch 3 times a week? That's $1,248 a year. That's $57,000 invested over 20 years. That extra $150 a month you're putting toward your 4% student loan instead of your 401k, over the next 20 years, that decision costs you $88,000 in retirement funds. Those subscriptions you barely use, the social pressure spending, the I'll just put it on the card this once. It adds up to something bigger than money. It adds up to freedom you'll never have. So, let's project this forward. Calmly. No dramatics. Just math. Rachel has $42,000 in her 401k right now at 41. She's contributing 3% of her salary, about $195 a month, to get the company match. If she continues exactly as she is for the next 24 years until she's 65, she'll have approximately $267,000. Sounds like a lot, right? Here's what it actually means. The 4% safe withdrawal rule says you can take out 4% per year without running out of money. That's $10,680 per year. $890 a month. Her Social Security at 65? About $2,100 a month for someone at her income level. Total retirement income, $2,990 a month. Her mortgage will be paid off, which helps. But here's what won't be paid off: property taxes, insurance, utilities, groceries, healthcare. Healthcare is the part that scares me for women specifically. Women live an average of 6 years longer than men. We need more healthcare in those years. And Medicare doesn't cover everything. The average woman spends $165,000 on healthcare in retirement. That's not covered by Medicare. That's out of pocket. Rachel's current savings trajectory? She'll run out of money at 79. She'll statistically live until 83. For years of what exactly? Dependence on her daughter? Medicaid? That studio apartment in a building where the elevator doesn't work? And here's the thing that keeps me up at night about women and retirement. Half of single women over 65 are living on less than $25,000 a year. Half. 80% of elderly poverty in America affects women. Not because we're bad with money. Because we're paid less, we take breaks for caregiving, we live longer, and we've been taught that focusing on our own financial security is somehow selfish. Now let's look at the 10-year mark. If Rachel doesn't change anything, in 10 years she'll be 51 with maybe $115,000 saved. She'll need about $1.2 million to retire comfortably at 65. That's 14 years away. To get from $115,000 to $1.2 million in 14 years, she'd need to save $3,200 a month. She currently has $200 left over after expenses. You see how the math stops working? Your 40s aren't a deadline. They're the last opportunity where the numbers are still on your side. Where you can invest $500 a month and compound interest does most of the work. Where you don't have to sacrifice everything to catch up. After 50, you're not building anymore. You're scrambling. And nobody tells you this until it's too late. But here's what changes everything. The women I know who are actually going to retire comfortably, they're not smarter than Rachel. They don't make twice as much. They're not investment geniuses. They just think about money in a completely different way. Let me show you what I mean. Most women ask, "Can I afford to invest this month?" Wealthy women ask, "Can I afford not to?" Most women treat investing as optional, something you do with leftover money. Wealthy women treat investing like rent. It's the first bill they pay. It's non-negotiable. They automate $600 to their Roth IRA on the first of every month before they see the money, before they feel attached to it, before they can talk themselves out of it. Most women wait to invest until they've paid off debt. Wealthy women do the math. If the debt is under 5% interest and the market averages 8%, they invest while making minimum payments. They understand opportunity cost isn't emotional. It's mathematical. Most women keep massive emergency funds just in case. Wealthy women keep 3 to 6 months of expenses liquid. Everything else goes to work. Because money sitting in a savings account at 0.5% while inflation runs at 3%? That's not safety. That's actively losing. Most women spend years learning about investing before they start. Wealthy women buy index funds and learn as they go. They know that 10 years of perfect information is worth less than 10 years of compound interest on imperfect action. Let me tell you about Maya. 38, divorced 3 years ago. Dental hygienist. Makes $61,000. 3 years ago, she had $12,000 in credit card debt, no retirement savings, and a lot of shame about where she was financially. Here's what changed. Not her income. Her operating system. She set up automatic transfers to her Roth IRA the day after each paycheck. $500 a month. It hurt. She had to cut her phone plan from $85 to $35. She canceled subscriptions she wasn't using. She started saying no to brunches that cost $60. Did it feel restrictive? At first, yeah. But here's what happened. 3 years in, she has $21,000 invested. $18,000 of contributions plus growth. She still has that credit card debt. She's paying it down slowly while investing. And she told me something that stuck with me. For the first time in my life, I'm not terrified about getting old. I'm not building it fast enough yet, but I'm building. I can see the path. That changes everything. She's not retiring at 35. She's not a millionaire. She's just a woman who decided that her 401k contribution was as mandatory as her rent. And that shift from optional to mandatory is the only thing that changes the trajectory. Here's what I need you to understand. You've been taught that focusing on your financial future is selfish. That putting money into investments instead of paying for that thing your kid wants or helping your friend or buying the nice gift is somehow cold. Calculating. Unfeminine. Let me reframe that. You know what's actually selfish? Being 75 and financially dependent on your children. Being unable to help the people you love because you never secured your own oxygen mask. Living the last 20 years of your life in stress and scarcity because you spent the middle years being generous. Financial independence isn't selfish. It's the foundation of sustainable generosity. You can't take care of anyone from a position of desperation. And your 40s? They're not a deadline. They're not a judgment on everything you haven't done yet. They're your last opportunity to let compound interest do most of the heavy lifting. After 50, you can still build wealth. But it requires sacrifice that building in your 40s never did. You'll need to save 20% of your income instead of 10%. You'll need to work longer. You'll need to live with less margin for error. But if you're 42, 44, 46 right now, the math still works. Not perfectly. Not without some discomfort. But it works. $500 a month from 45 to 65. That's $367,000. Add Social Security. You're okay. Not rich. But okay. Independent. Safe. Will it be perfect? No. Will there be months you can't contribute? Probably. Will you make investment choices you regret? Definitely. And you'll still end up infinitely better off than if you waited for perfect conditions that never come. Here's what I wish someone had told me at 35. Your relationship with money isn't about math. It's about permission. Permission to want security. Permission to prioritize yourself. Permission to be financially ambitious without apology. Permission to start before you feel ready. The women who build wealth in their 40s aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who gave themselves permission to start anyway. So consider this your permission slip. Your 40s aren't a financial deadline. They're an opportunity. But only if you stop waiting. If part of you is feeling resistant right now, like this sounds good, but you'll deal with it later, that's normal. This goes against everything we've been taught about being good with money. Sit with that discomfort. Then ask yourself, what would actually change if I treated my retirement account like my rent? If I automated it before I could talk myself out of it? Maybe you're 42 with nothing saved. Start now. $200 a month for 23 years is $178,000. That's not rich. But it's not desperate. Maybe you're 48 and panicking. You've got 17 years. $700 a month gets you to $315,000. Plus Social Security. You're okay. Maybe you're 38 and ahead of this. Don't stop. Stay ahead. There's no shame in where you're starting. There's only the decision about where you're going. If this shifted something for you, if you felt that uncomfortable recognition that maybe you've been approaching this all wrong, I'd genuinely love to have you here for the next one. We talk about money the way it actually works for women, not the way it's supposed to work. I'll see you in the next video.